A very warm welcome once again to all my viewers to another episode of 50 Shelves of Grey Matter channel. Uh, I take you through my book collection shelf by shelf. Let's see what I have in this episode. The first book that is here is Freud, his dream and sex theories. All of you who have watched my previous episodes will realize that I have great fondness for the ideas of Freud and his books. This is a book by Joseph Jastrow, who was himself a great psychologist. But in this book, he is actually criticizing Freud. This is one of his Jastrow's polemical works, where he finds this was written very early in 1940, and in fact, while Freud was still alive. Its first edition came when Freud was still alive. So this the first edition, the book's name was something else, The House That Freud Built, which he later changed to this title. It's a very good book. In terms of criticism, there are quite valid criticisms. He thinks Freud went off the mark in many ways, but he also credits him with his revolutionary ideas, which richly contributed to psychology. Now, the book is, you see, it's heavily underlined, not by me, by someone else who owned this book. Uh, and it's not a very well written book, I would say. The language is not very clear many a times. Uh, but be that as it may, look, it is a good work. You understand a work better by reading its criticisms than by reading its summary or something. So it greatly helped me in understanding Freud better. So this is the first book of this haul. Let me take another one. Wow, this is George Orwell's classic, all-time one of the most famous books of all time, Animal Farm by George Orwell. This book needs no introduction. It's a Penguin edition, and this is, as all of you know, it's a very short book. You can read it in one sitting. It's a prophetic book in the sense that it prophesized what would happen to human society. It will be divided into two camps: the communist and the capitalist, and the democratic and the totalitarian, and all these have been, you know, given in an allegorical form. And the animals decide to implement those ideas. And this, look at the, it's a history of revolution that went wrong, and of the excellent excuses that were for forthcoming at every step for the perversion of the original doctrine. This tragic fable remains one of the classics of English prose. So this is, obviously, all of you know, and you will be surprised to find such books from time to time in the midst of my very heavy philosophical and psychological collections. So, which goes again to show that my channel covers all kinds of books, because I read all kinds of books, and I enjoy all genres of fiction and non-fiction. So that's all the more reason for you to watch my channel. So this, here goes the second book. And oh, this is another classic by Daniel Defoe, Moll Flanders. Daniel Defoe, as you all know, is the famous writer of Robinson Crusoe. He is perhaps the originator of the novel format. On top of this, my son has pasted a sticker. Uh, so that's not part of the book's cover. It's a sticker. And let's see. Moll Flanders. I've read Robinson Crusoe as well. Some other day I will cover that book as well. It's a very good book in the sense that it gives you a very strange and vivid account of uh, 17th and 18th century England, and you find such striking similarities that you wonder whether anything has changed. So in terms of portraying the society of its time, 17th century, I have always found that reading a history book doesn't give you a feel of what went on in the society at that time. The best way to do that is to read a novel of that period. And what is even more encouraging is that the novels of those periods are very interesting, like Maul Flanders. It's about a woman who is kind of led into a life of debauchery because of her poverty, and how she negotiates all those different situations that trap her are extremely interesting. So Daniel Defoe's another work, very interesting. All the books are all of similar size in this one. No big tomes, but look, this is a very important book in my life. I'll tell you why. Is The Age of Ideology. This is one of the first books of Western philosophy that I bought when I was a kid. And this is perhaps the only work of that period in my life which I'm still carrying. I remember I read this book in 1992 for sure. I didn't understand a lot of it then. I understand it much better now. In fact, in 2018, I read it. Reading it again was a revelation. It was absolutely a revelation. It mostly deals with the. This is a part of a series which came out of Mentor publishers, the Mentor philosophers, and each century has been covered. So this book is covering the 19th century. You can see the photographs of Hegel and Nietzsche, and you have all these other great writers covered in this: Kant, Fichte, Schopenhauer, Comte, Mill, Spencer, Marx, Mach, Nietzsche, Kierkegaard. And it has a commentary by this Henry D. Aiken, a Harvard professor, and then there is a selection from each of these writers. So dealt, I've read all of it 2 or 3 times, and I've made copious notes in a notebook, not on the book itself. But it's one of the books that has have played a great role in my philosophical development and education. So for me, it remains a very dear book. And you look at how worn out it is. Most of my books are second-hand purchases, but this is I have in fact this to prevent this book from getting spoiled, I have covered it with plastic, plastic sellotape, so that it doesn't absorb moisture and all. I take care of my books. They are my life. Okay, let's see. Oh my god, 2 books in a row which have changed my life. This is William James's The Varieties of Religious Experience. This book I bought in Calcutta, in College Street. The William James is an amazing. I think I covered him in my last episode as well. But the greatest book of his entire collection is this one. It's an all-time classic in the field of philosophy of religion, and it is James shows such breadth and width of understanding, because you look at the title, The Varieties of Religious Experience. The whole point of this book is to include a lot of these experiences which do not fit the religious pattern into a kind of religious experience. So he brings in all kinds of he does an analysis of how many kinds of religiosity you can have, and that analysis is amazing. Look, like the divide itself, the name of the chapter, the sick soul. There are some people whose religiosity is marked by melancholy. Then there's religion of health, my healthy mindedness. There are others who believe in sunshine and joy and all, and their religion is indicative of that mindset. Then there's the reality of the unseen, how abstract ideas are able to shape the most concrete of our actions. So it's an amazing book. Because I read so many spiritual books, this is the this provides the framework, the scaffolding against which I understand all books on spiritual philosophy and also on philosophy. It's an amazing book. I mean, I can't praise it enough. To tell you more about the merits of this book, I will need a series of episodes. So I can't do that, but let me just once again reiterate what a great, phenomenal book it is, and how much it has influenced my thinking. So there goes William James's Variety of Religious Experience. And this is a book on religion, comparative religion, one of the first books in that field. I like reading books on comparative religion. It covers all the Western religions of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, as well as Eastern religions. This book is again heavily underlined, not by me, but perhaps the previous owner of this book. That makes it a little difficult for me to read it, but I have read it once or twice, the entire book. Book's language is very good, uh, and it's a classic. It comes from a Pelican original edition, and for all the students of comparative religion, this is a primary kind of a textbook, but it's very good for even those who are interested in religion. So there goes. Most of these books that you see here are quite old and worn out. I have to take special care of them. Okay, so here I have the last book of this episode. It's a primer on Christianity by S.C. Carpenter. I'm greatly interested in the philosophy of Christianity, religion. I've one of my all-time favorites is the book of My Life by the 16th century mystic Saint Teresa of Avila. It's a great book. This is an overview of Christianity, its spiritual teachings, and its history, and how it has developed over the last 20 centuries. Um, Not a very comprehensive book, but for someone who wants to have an understanding of the way Christianity has shaped human history and has been shaped by human history, both the aspects Carpenter brings out well. Also because Carpenter was himself a priest. Um, he was master of temple and dean of Exeter. Uh, he has written a number of books, of which a Parson's Defense was the earliest. So, uh, this is a book on Christianity, religion, purely religion, but it's a kind of a textbook. So, there goes the shelf, and as usual, I finished up the episode with my own take on which books I would recommend. From a personal point of view, The Age of Ideology is a personal favorite of mine. It has been one of the most important books in my philosophical education. However, James's Varieties of Religious Experience, from an impersonal point of view, from an objective point of view, is the most important book of the whole lot from my perspective. Of course, the most famous is Animal Farm, which everyone knows. Um, the others are important works which you can read, and I would recommend the other ones as well. So that's all in this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and like my channel. See you next time.